Imagine walking deep into a forest just before the rain. The leaves shimmer with dew. The air carries that scent of something about to happen. The clouds gather, slow and gray, but the storm never comes. You wait under the trees, listening, watching, hoping, but nothing breaks. No rain, no thunder. Just that awful silence. That's what it feels like to love someone who's not ready to love you back. It's like standing in the stillness before a storm that never arrives. You feel everything, except the one thing you needed, release. They don't mean to hurt you. That's the worst part. They're not cruel. They're not cold. They're just stuck. Somewhere in a past you can't reach, or a fear they won't name. And you keep showing up, you keep waiting, hoping your love will be enough to unlock them. But it never is. You start to wonder, is it you? You ask yourself, maybe if I were more patient. Maybe if I loved them a little louder. Maybe if I didn't ask for too much, but deep down you already know. The pain you feel isn't because you're not enough. It's because they aren't ready. Not ready to receive, not ready to grow. Not ready to give back the kind of love you so freely offer. You sit next to them, and it feels like sitting next to a closed door. One you keep knocking on, but no one opens. They smile. They kiss you. They hold your hand, but something's missing. There's no depth, no real reach. You're with someone who says all the right things. But nothing lands. They tell you, I care about you. But they flinch at consistency. They say, I don't want to lose you. But they don't show up when you need them most. Their presence feels like a shadow. There, but not whole. And still, you stay because you saw something in them. You saw who they could be. You saw their potential, and you started loving that potential instead of the person in front of you. You told yourself they just need time. But how much time are you supposed to give someone who doesn't even know if they want to be chosen? You can't build love on maybes. You can't plant a seed in frozen soil and then blame yourself when it doesn't grow. Loving someone who's not ready is like pouring sunlight into a room with no windows. It drains you. It breaks your heart slowly in invisible ways. At first, you don't even realize it's happening. You convince yourself their walls will come down. That one day, they'll wake up and realize you were the one. You wait for that moment when everything finally clicks. But days turn into weeks, weeks into months. And nothing changes. They keep you close enough so you don't leave. But never close enough to truly be with you. You give and give and give. And they take and hesitate and disappear. You start shrinking, not all at once, but slowly. You become smaller to fit inside their comfort zone. You stop expressing your needs. You lower your expectations. You silence your instincts. Until you barely recognize yourself. And that's the true tragedy. Not that they couldn't love you, but that you stopped loving you to stay. You start feeling ashamed of your own emotions. You tell yourself you're too much. Too emotional, too demanding, too sensitive. But the truth is, you were just too awake for someone still asleep in their wounds. You don't need less love. You need someone who's ready to meet you where you are. Ready to grow, ready to heal, ready to show up. Not someone who's still haunted by their past, so much so that they can't see the gift in front of them. And here's the hardest part, even when you realize they're not ready. Letting go still hurts because the version of them you fell for was real to you. The laughs, the late night talks, the sparks, the feeling of possibility. You weren't crazy. There was a connection. But love without readiness is like lightning in a bottle. It dazzles, but it doesn't last. You begin to understand that love isn't just about chemistry, it's about timing. And sometimes people arrive in your life with all the right feelings, but at the wrong time. You wanted growth, they wanted comfort. You wanted depth, they wanted escape. You wanted truth, they wanted distraction. You thought love was enough to carry both of you through. But it wasn't, because love doesn't work unless both people are willing to work. So, what do you do when you've given your heart to someone who can't hold it? You take it back, piece by fragile piece. You stop trying to explain yourself to someone who isn't listening. You stop overfunctioning in a relationship where you're the only one trying. You stop building castles in a future that only you can see, and you start rebuilding yourself. You relearn your worth. You remember your strength. You redefine your boundaries. You realize that your value doesn't decrease just because someone else couldn't see it. You weren't too much. They were just not ready. Healing begins when you stop fighting for a seat at a table where your soul keeps getting starved. You step back. You breathe. You feel the ache fully. And then you let it move through you. You cry, not because you're weak, but because your heart was brave enough to love someone who couldn't meet you there. That takes courage, but so does walking away. So you choose yourself. You learn to love the quiet again. You reconnect with your spirit. You return to the parts of you that got lost in trying to be enough. You realize you never had to earn real love. It was never supposed to be that hard. You were worthy the whole time. And then, one day and maybe months later, you look back at it all and say, that wasn't love, that was me begging someone to show up. And when that day comes, you won't feel bitter. You'll feel free. Because you'll know that letting go of someone who wasn't ready is what finally made space for someone who was. Someone who doesn't confuse chaos with passion. Someone who doesn't need to be chased to stay. Someone who chooses you, fully, willingly, and with both hands open. And most importantly, you'll realize that person might be you. You'll realize that self-love isn't a replacement for romantic love, it's the foundation of it. Because when you learn to love yourself deeply, without waiting for permission, you stop clinging to people who can't love you back. You stop confusing being needed with being valued. You stop romanticizing potential and start demanding presence. You stop settling for breadcrumbs and start asking for the feast. You begin attracting people who are emotionally available, grounded, and ready to build something real. Because you're no longer trying to fix or prove or earn. You're just being you, and that's enough. So to the one who's hurting, to the one who gave so much to someone who couldn't hold it, you are not foolish, you are not weak, you are not broken. You are just ahead of someone who hasn't caught up to your kind of love. Let them go. Not because they're bad, but because you're ready for more. And maybe someday, they'll catch up. Maybe they'll heal. Maybe they'll learn how to love without fear, but that's not your job to wait for. You're not a rehab center for people afraid of intimacy. You're a home for someone ready to arrive, so walk forward. Let the pain pass through. Let the memories rise and fall. Let the silence hold you gently, and then let the forest bloom again. Because someone is out there, walking their own path of healing, who will meet you in the sunlight, not in confusion, not in hesitation, but in truth, and when they do, you'll know the difference. Because love that's ready feels safe, it feels steady. It feels like coming home to yourself with someone standing right beside you. No fear. No games, just love. You're not hard to love. You were just loving someone who wasn't ready, and now you are.